Hey everybody, Tom here with Hidden Beats, and today we're talking with Dio Gibson. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Having a great day.
Yeah, it's nice and sunny out, and then nice and smoky to go along with it. But it's good to be in the summer now and enjoying some time outside too.
Oh, it's great to be out here. Right now, I'm in Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's sunny, but we had some rain and there's been some forest fires. So it's good that it rained out here to prevent that.
Yeah, we've actually got some going on. Like I'm based in Ottawa, so I've got
Mm,
the smoke coming in from our side on over here too.
yeah,
But yeah, well, today we're here to talk about you, about your music, and learn a little bit more about you. But for those who are new, can you give us a little
mm,
intro as to kind of who you are and what you do?
sure. My name is Dio Gibson, and what Dio stands for is Defy the Odds. And so, what that means to me is I grew up in a lot of small communities in Ontario, from Stratford, Ontario to Sault Ste. Marie, and then to Sarnia. So, I remember when I was starting out, people didn't think you could have a career as being a rapper. And so, for the last 20 years, it's been my full time job. I've had a chance to perform around the world, do over 3,500 shows. And I love how 20 years in, I'm still making music, still doing more and more shows. And so it means a lot to me to be able to help the young generation of upcoming artists to do the same.
For sure. And how did you actually get into, into hip hop and the music and doing all that stuff?
Well, I remember watching Rap City on Much Music and coming back from school and watching people like Fresh Prince, now known
Nice.
as Will Smith, and LL Cool J. But Fresh Prince stood out to me because he did a concert when I was 12 years old, and my dad took me to the concert. And I saw De La Soul and Fresh Prince and DJ Jazzy Jeff. And that's what really made me want to be a rapper. And then finally, living in Sarnia as a teenager, my parents took me to Detroit to the hip hop shop where Eminem, celebrated an 8 Mile. And so that let me see what rappers were doing and what the scene was like. And ever since then, I just wanted to be an MC.
hmm Do you remember the first album you bought that was like the one you had on repeat all the time?
He's the DJ, I'm the rapper, Fresh Prince.
Okay.
And I always think it's important for people to realize like how significant Fresh Prince is in hip hop. He's the
hmm
first rapper who won a Grammy, and he would tell stories in his raps from Nightmare on Elm Street. But he also, the DJ was the top billing, Jazzy Jeff. So hearing scratching on a record and having a beatboxer, Ready Rock C. So I was learning about elements of hip hop through that album, and it's a great album to this day.
Yeah, for sure. What's your thoughts on the hip hop scene back at home? Like you're from the GTA, and
Yep.
that's like the mecca basically in Canada is
Yeah.
Toronto and everything. What's your thoughts on the scene there right now?
I think the scene's great. What I love about it is you have different generations of rappers. So you've got some of the rappers who paved the way in the late 90s to rappers who were coming up in the 2000s to this young generation of new artists. And I see us working together more than in the past. And I love how the GTA has finally evolved out of kind of the screw face capital where you'd perform and people would just stand there like this. So
hmm
it's great to me when I can talk to a rapper named Socrates and he can be my mentor. But I can talk to a rapper like Rochester or Bishop that are my contemporaries. But I can also talk to a young artist like Price the Boss or Devonte and see how they're coming up. And I just think it's great that we're all working together.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge community there for the hip hop scene, and kind of the meshing of everyone together now seems to be great.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh, my light just died on me. Whatever. So you're a hip hop guy, and everyone always wants to know who's your top five starting lineup.
Oh, top five. Well, I cause a lot of controversy sometimes when I go on social media. On Facebook, one time I'd start this, you know, uh, I said, if Snoop Dogg isn't in your top five, you don't know hip hop.
I can see that.
And I woke up the next day and I had like 50 comments. I guess I don't know hip hop then. But I mean, honestly, if Snoop Dogg isn't in your top five, I don't think you do know hip hop, because I love Snoop Dogg because I think it was so cool when I was coming up, the music he was making with Dr. Dre. And so Snoop Dogg is always going to be part of it. I'm a big Jay-Z fan. I love Nas. Tupac is a big part of my message and everything I represent. And five, I got to go with LL Cool J, because when
Okay.
I think of an artist that really inspired me when I was coming up, it was LL. And I mean, he's the one who coined the term GOAT. So I think that says a lot.
Yeah, he definitely did a number for hip hop for sure.
Hmm.
I'm just gonna try and plug this thing back in so we can actually see my face here. Jesus. There, that'll kind of do. All right. I mean, there's always some sort of technical issues when you're having interviews over the internet. So
Oh, yeah, tell me about it.
I actually just got
Dealt
this
with a
mic
lot of
back.
that.
Yeah, this mic just started working again yesterday.
Mm,
I was doing it on headphones and things like that.
yeah.
So the main reason we're here today, though, is to talk about your new single, "Appreciate
Mm.
You." Can you give us a little bit of story behind that one?
Appreciate You is a song dedicated to women and to mothers and people that raise you. So for me, I mentioned Tupac is one of my favorite artists. And one of my favorite songs from him is Dear Mama,
Hmm.
where he says, "There's no way I can pay you back, but the plan is to show you that I understand. I appreciate you." So in this song, I'm talking about my mother, but I also wanted other people to relate to it. I didn't want it to just be about my mother. And I was raised by a strong woman, is the first thing I say. But then the twist is I talk about how my mother's a white woman. And there's a lot of this generation growing up where your parent might not look exactly like you,
Hmm.
but they teach you a lot about identity. And so my mother, while she's a white woman, always raised me to know that I'm a black man and to find out my history. And so in the second verse, I also say I was raised by black women, because I think in a community are raised by your cousins or your aunts or your grandmother. And I wanted to highlight that that community also raised me, because I think a lot of people can relate to that as far as a community raising you. And it was great to have Socrates produce it, but it was also awesome to have a singer like Jordan sing on that chorus and really bring it home to say, we appreciate you.
Yeah, I was listening to it before we started this, and I was vibing to it. You put a lot of lyrics and a lot of story into that song,
Mm,
and it shows for sure.
thank you.
Now, one of the fun questions I like to ask, and you've got, a fair bit of releases under your belt. How do you think your music's evolved back from like something on my mind in 2007 to now?
Nice one. Well, I think it's really evolved through collaboration. I think one of the most important things you can do as an artist is collaborate, especially as a rapper, because I don't produce. So, you said 2007, I was working with Slack and the Beat Child a lot, but I also made a relationship with Classified at that point. And I went out on tour with them that year in 2007. And I had a chance to tour a lot across Western Canada, over through Ottawa, had a great time at Barrymore's.
Yeah.
And so I would say touring on the road and collaborating helped evolve music. Because when I was in Toronto performing and I'm like, throw your hands in the air, everybody was like that. But when I saw Classified do it across this country and everybody responded, I started doing that. And so I learned how to be an MC and how to control a crowd. And so when I write a song now, it's I want the listener to really be able to relate to it and vibe to it. And I also want to be able to perform it live to see how people respond and the call and response in hip hop. So I'm proud of myself for how I've evolved as a songwriter.
Hmm. And Classified is one of those guys who he just draws a crowd and he gets them
Mhm.
involved and you have fun with it. I was part of the when they did the American class or Canadian classics tour with like
Yeah,
Maestro and
yeah,
Choclair on that, and it was like just watching him pull that crowd together and get everyone going was pretty crazy.
Oh, it's a great thing. I was just supposed to stop by his house earlier today. We had to reschedule for tomorrow, but it's great to have somebody who's a Canadian legend and to be able to just call him a friend and
Hmm.
hang out with him and then continue to make music and involve with him as well.
For sure. What's your process like when you're putting together a track? You said you're not a producer or anything, but so are you involved in those aspects though?
Well, I think the main aspect is hearing a beat that really captures you
Hmm.
and being a fan. First off, just when you hear that beat and you're like, I'd love to hear a song like
Hmm.
on this
Yeah.
beat. And so you hear the beat. And then for me, the next part of the process is the concept. Because, when you start out as a rapper, you probably just, well, I just wrote verses, I wrote braggadocio raps.
Hmm.
So now I want to know what the concept of the song is and maybe think of the chorus or the hook and then begin writing the song. And I think freestyling is always important to capture that live essence. But I love rewriting and writing again because it's tough to squeeze Eminem out of my top five today. But I love how Eminem is one of the best freestylers ever.
Hmm.
But when you see how he writes his rhymes and crosses things out, he's very meticulous. And I think that's the important thing is you can be a great freestyler, but can you be a great editor? Shad said that line on one of his raps. He's like, I'm like the Raptors. I got weak first drafts because the Raptors never pick good players in the first
Hmm.
round. But Shad's basically saying, like, my first bars aren't going to be great, but I rewrite them and I get them to a point. And my goodness, Shad's one of the best rappers this country's ever had, too.
Hmm. Yeah, you go back and kind of edit yourself, and then you realize, damn, okay, this one flows better. This one does a little bit different.
Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly.
For sure. Is there something that you do to ground yourself outside of music? I know you put a lot of yourself into what you do, but how do you keep level from outside of music?
I love hanging out with my kids because when I hang out with my kids, they don't care that daddy's a rapper.
Hmm.
They just want to tell me their stories, and they're very good storytellers. So I I like in my house we got a ping pong table outside. We play ping pong, we play badminton, and we have campfires. And again, just having rappers as friends that when my rapper friends call me, it's not just D, we got to do a new song, but it's like, hey, how's it going, man? How's life? How's
Hmm.
the family? You know, what's new? And so having these friendships with rappers is a really cool thing. And I love the fact that I've been able to travel the world. So sometimes the call might go to Amsterdam, or I might get a call from Croatia or London, England, and connecting with my friends from around the world. So um, I think that's one of the things that just keeps me grounded.
Yeah, it's nice to have that kind of tether back home and just have someone on your mind that's able to keep you going.
Yeah, for sure.
Hmm. Is there any kind of difficulties that you've experienced that you had to get over coming up in the industry?
Yeah, the biggest difficulty was not having mentors
Okay.
because in other genres of music, in Canada and around the world, you actually have managers, you
Hmm.
have labels. And in hip hop and in Canada, we didn't have a lot of that. So it was hard starting out and wanting to sign a record deal and thinking I had to go to the United States. But not having a manager help you with your career was tough. So my mentor is Maestro Fresh West,
Hmm.
and hanging out with him for over 20 years, and him saying you got to do it yourself, and that allowed me to learn the music business, learn how to write grants, and ever since then I've written over 500 successful grants for myself and other artists.
Hmm.
But so what was a difficult thing turned out to be a good thing because it allowed me to realize I'm in control of my career. The artists that I did meet that were signed to major record companies, they kind of fizzled out because when their new song didn't do so well, they didn't know what to do with their careers. Whereas I realized it's about consistency, it's about continuing to release music, whether it's through grants or however you want to put out music. But you've got to take hold of your own career.
Yeah, you're a business. You have to
Yeah,
know a lot of different things about yourself and where you're gonna be comfortable going for sure.
1,000%. I ain't a businessman. I'm a business man.
Yep. Is there I just thought of something there for a second. Now it's completely off my mind. I'll come back to it probably. I got a couple questions I do like to ask everyone. What's one thing that you think should be asked more in an interview that's not asked enough?
Oh, it's a good one. I'm trying to think of what's a good question to ask someone. Uh,
Maybe something that you want to hear more from someone that you're watching an interview for too. Like you can use it that way.
how growing up in your city really shaped you.
Okay. That's a nice one. I like that.
Yeah, because I think as a rapper, you're really rapping your personal story.
Hmm.
So where you grow up at really shapes who you are as an artist. And I think that's a really key part. So it's like where I'm sitting at right now, downtown Halifax. I look across the street and I used to stay at that house across the street with my dad's best friends. And that's where Classified came and dropped off. Well, I dropped off a beat CD to him. Classified makes his own beats.
Hmm.
But Danny O's producer, Charisma, wanted me to give him a beat CD. And really what it was an excuse to meet Classified in person and for him to meet me. And now we look back at that and we think that's 20 years ago. And as I mentioned, touring with Classified was great, but then doing an album with him. So it meant that I flew out to Nova Scotia and I record with Luke and his brother, Mike Boyd. And some days his dad would come by. And I got to realize how important his family is to music. And I also got a chance to go up to New Glasgow and see my aunt and uncle and my cousins. And so Nova Scotia has really shaped and informed my music. And I love being able to perform and do songs with Morgan Tony, a fiddle player,
Hmm.
and, to work and mentor a young artist, Dee Dee Austin, who I'll see today, who just turned 17 years old. And this whole Nova Scotia music scene, I think it's really important for when you're listening to an interview is to hear how these places shape and form you.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good one. I like that one because it helps me curate questions a little bit easier. Because I mean, I miss sometimes, and my research isn't always on point, but do what I can for sure.
Well, yeah, I love how you dropped the reference to Something on My Mind from 2007. But I was telling you, I just checked in the hotel,
Hmm.
but they gave me the wrong room.
Okay.
So I'm like, I've got 5 more minutes till I do this interview, and I got to go on the elevator to go get another key. And there's a couple in there in the elevator, and just because it's taking a few minutes to get down, we're just talking. And I said, "Well, where are you from?" And he says, "Saskatchewan, Saskatoon." And I say to him, "I was born there." And it's always interesting because there's not a lot of black people that are
Hmm.
from Saskatchewan, but my dad's from Nova Scotia. And he moved out there. And he asked me where I'm from. So I said, I'm from Watrous. And he knew right away. I said, grandparents were up in Prince Albert. And he's like, no way, man. I'm from Prince Albert. And so it's just another thing of it's cool to know Canadians. Because one of the biggest things in my music and what I represent is Canadian history that so many people are first generation and second generation, but I'm sixth generation.
Hmm.
And I love having family out in Nova Scotia, having family in Saskatchewan, of course, all over Ontario, and then British Columbia as well, and in Alberta. And I love being able to represent Canada. So while it's 416, it's also Maple Leaf.
Yeah, for sure. And it's probably nice too, wherever you go, there's always a chance you're gonna run into someone you know.
Oh, there's always, yeah, you never know where you're going to be, and you just bump into someone. And I think that's a really cool thing. And like when I'm up in Ottawa, I'm hitting up some of my friends from there, and like Dynamic. I
Hmm.
love that guy. So yeah, anywhere you go, you've got friends in hip hop.
Yeah, for sure. What's one thing you think people should be doing more to give back to the community?
I was with a rapper the other day, and he just kept on asking me things of like how I can help him sign a deal and who I can introduce him to. And I said to him, I can do those things, but also you have got to ask yourself, what are you doing for me?
Hmm.
I don't need you to do anything for me. But I would like to think when people talk about my career, they talk about the music and they say he's a good artist, but he always gave back. He always created opportunities for other artists. So I think it's important to give back and to realize you don't have to be up here in the rap stratosphere. You don't have to be Drake to be able to help. You know, if you a good example of that is my man Robbie G.
Yeah.
I've known Robbie G since he was in high school. When I came to a small town, and it was one of the first times he ever grabbed the mic. And since then, he's toured this country multiple times, and he's helped a lot of artists.
Hmm.
And when I talk to him on the phone, he's always saying things like, "How can I help you, D?" And I'm saying back to him like, "How can I help you?" And I think as an artist, of course, we all want great opportunities, but to lead with, "How can I help you?"
Hmm. Yeah, I've worked with Robbie a few times when he's coming through Ottawa, like with Mad Child, things like that. So
Yeah,
he's definitely a good guy for sure.
that's a great guy.
Hmm. What's something on your go-to playlist people wouldn't expect you're listening to right now?
I'm a big fan of J. Cole and Lil Durk, the new
Okay.
song All My Life, which is really good. But the people probably wouldn't expect. I listen to a lot of Jack Harlow and Russ. I
Okay.
think they're two of the best rappers right now because they're writing really good songs and they choose really good beats. And so I love when I listen to Russ and he's like, Boy Wonder on production, Static Selector on production, Ninth Wonder on production. And it's like they're going back and choosing like beats that like I love that almost sound like from the late 90s,
Hmm.
but they sound contemporary. So their beat selection is incredible. And I think it's so important for artists to work with those legendary producers um, because, I mean, they're still banging out incredible beats, especially Static, because I've had a chance to hang out with him a few times. And I love how he's doing placements with some of the biggest artists right now in the game. But Russ and Jack Harlow, amazing.
Yeah, I've gotten a little bit of more interest in them recently, and I put some of their songs on the playlist. And yeah,
Mm,
like you just that 90s feel, like you were saying, that beat and everything, that's what I
mm.
love, is that type of stuff too. So when I hear something like that, even if it's tweaked a little bit, those are the
Yeah,
ones that I always kind of veer towards myself.
yeah, 1,000%, right?
Hmm. Is there any artists kind of coming up that you think more people should be looking out for?
Um, Devontae, because
Devontae, okay.
Devontae's somebody I've worked with for several years. He's another guy. I met him when he was in high school,
Hmm.
and he was nervous, kind of to rap in front of everyone, but then he performed, and then I just bump into him random places, and I formed a friendship with him. But he releases music very consistently, and I love just being able to check his new music because I was saying it's important to release music consistently
Hmm.
because then fans get to see your growth. So every time I hear a new song, I hear more and more of his growth. And I just think he's an amazing artist, a great human being. So I would always recommend people to check his music out.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, growth is important. Like when I was looking up some of your stuff going all the way back, you could listen to tracks periodically. Yeah, I can feel your growth in there too. So
Yeah,
it's important to be able to experience that over that amount of time.
for sure.
Hmm. Couple important questions I have to kind of close it out. First one, probably the most important, is why music? Why do you keep on pursuing this career of yours?
Because I got a story to tell. um, I I love being able to evolve with your stories. So somebody who can go back and listen to my early music can hear how I felt at that time, but I still have something to say. Because I think for so long as a rapper, you thought, as soon as I hit, 37, well, I'm not going to make music anymore. I remember when the game was making fun of Jay-Z, like 38 and still rapping.
Yeah.
Whereas now you're seeing Jay-Z evolve and you're seeing Maestro evolve into his 50s.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice to be like when kids ask me a question at a school and they say, "How old are you?" And I say, "Sorry, I'm out of time. Can't answer the question." But then I say, "No, but seriously, I'm 44 years old."
Mm-hmm.
Proud of saying how old I am. There used to be a time where you didn't say how old you were, but I'm proud because I'm still relevant. And I'm still relevant because I'm rapping about real things. I'm not trying to compete with a 20-year-old and that sound. I'm just trying to compete with myself
Mm-hmm.
and with my contemporaries. And I love how the music that I make can still be enjoyed by a 15-year-old kid, but it can be enjoyed by a 55-year-old woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just being true to yourself is one of the hardest things to do as an artist, but it's one of the most important things. But I learned that from people like KRS-One and Chuck D.
Mm-hmm.
So, or Naughty by Nature even. So
Yep.
just try to be humble.
I mean, those are some big names too. So they've got a lot of stories behind them. So it's great learning from people like that.
Well, it's what I realized from meeting them. Like when I met Big Daddy Kane, he's a very tall guy,
Mm-hmm.
but I love when he just looked at me and he's like, "Man, you set this Guinness World Record for the world's longest freestyle. Brother, you freestyle better than me." And why is a legend saying that to me?
Mm-hmm.
Or DMC from Run DMC said the same thing to me in Miami, or Wyclef. So I learned from the legends that they might be the cockiest guy when they're on the mic, but when they're off the mic, they're really humble people.
Yeah.
And that taught me a lot of now when I get to meet a young rapper, to just be humble with them.
It's interesting too. The first time I started, getting out and meeting artists, things like that, and then just watching how humble they were. Like we booked people
Mm,
through Ottawa all the time, and then you get to go sit in the
yep.
back in the green room with them and then just have a conversation. It's crazy. Like I think Tony Yayo recently, it was just funny just
Yep.
sitting there chatting with them and having stories. And he was telling us about how he thought he was going to die on the bus tour coming out of like Alberta, things like that. And
Yeah.
it's fun just listening to different things like that and realizing that everyone's just another person doing their job.
Yeah. And shout out to Peter Jackson as well for organizing tours like that, because Peter Jackson's done a great job of bringing some of these artists across the country. And like I said with Robbie G, giving artists an opportunity to perform and open
Hmm.
for Tony Yayo is a great thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna be connecting with Peter when Dave East comes by. I think
Mm,
I'm gonna get out. I cover shows too, so like I'm actually a photographer. I get out and shoot and
yeah.
review shows, things like that. So I'll get to connect with him again and have some fun on a new show that he brings out.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Tell him I said what's up.
I will. Last and probably one of the more important ones, like I said, what's something you want people to take away from your music?
It's a good question. Um, I think what I've tried to do in hip hop is some days when I used to go to the record store, when you had to go to get a CD, and I would look so forward to Tuesdays when the new music came out. But then I got to a point in hip hop for a while where I'd go and I wasn't seeing the music that I wanted to hear. So Toni Morrison, an author, he said, "I write books because I couldn't find those books in the library at the bookstore.
Okay.
So I try to create hip hop where if you are, I don't know what to listen to. I don't know where to start because there is no rap city anymore to turn on.
Hmm.
There's not a central radio station to listen to. Just that classic hip hop music, but it's not dated. It's staying current.
Hmm.
So if you aren't sure of what to check out right now, it's like, well, Do always is going to come through. He's going to have dope beats. He's going to have dope collaborations. His lyrics are always going to be on point. He's going to write something that I'm just going to be like, I can relate to that. And so to answer your question, I can relate to that is a very important thing that I want to get to in my music. That whether you're happy, whether you're sad, whether you're just playing basketball outside in the driveway, just like I can relate with that.
For sure. And listening to music, man, that's the type of stuff I love to listen to. The lyrics, the beats, just the whole package. That's
Yeah,
it's what I want to listen to. So I can relate to that for sure.
yeah.
Hmm. That's all I have written down right now. Is there any kind of final tidbits or words of wisdom you want to leave to people?
I just like to say this is it's been a pleasure talking to you, man. This has been a great interview because you ask questions that make you think.
Hmm.
It's like I'm like yeah. So I appreciate that because I can tell you love hip hop.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. So I just want to say thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
No, and it was great getting to know you. Like you made a new fan out of me for sure. And I love being able to
Thank you.
connect with people and getting to experience kind of who you are behind the music.
Yeah, 1,000%.
So, I mean, we're definitely going to have to do this again at some point because I'm going to want to
I
catch
love it
up and when
for
you're in
sure.
Ottawa, I'm going to definitely hit up that show and take some
Yeah,
cool shots with them there.
yeah, most definitely.
Well, we'll sign off. We'll let you enjoy the rest of your day because, like you said, you got a lot going on. So, don't
Yeah,
want to keep you too long. But I'm going to make sure we link everything, all your socials, website, whatever we can in the description, and we're going to get this out soon, and more people enjoy your stuff.
thank you.
All righty, you have a good one.
Oh yeah.